All right. So the Saints, while we were away, a couple of things happened. The Saints actually put pen to paper. We came out like with a show covering this right before it happened. And ultimately, the Saints finally got it done. Remember, this is a similar thing that happened with Alante Taylor last year. The Saints finally inked their last draft pick, second round draft pick, Isaiah Foskey, got his deal done. We'll cover that in this episode of TSC. We'll also talk about the updated salary cap situation because the Saints are currently, word on the street, they're currently working on a contract extension for Cam Jordan to get him out of the way. So don't be surprised if they get Cam done and somebody else gets done. You know, that happened before. Remember, several years ago, it happened with Demario Davis when they were working on Elvin Kamara's contract. And then all of a sudden, Elvin gets his deal. And it happened right around the same time. Remember, the Saints, Sean Payton went out to Houston or went to Texas, whatever, to go and talk to, who was it, Jadeveon Clowney, to try to see if he wanted to be here, all this kind of stuff. It was turned into something that was totally unfruitful. But in the end, the Saints were able to, after that got out of the way, they were able to sign Elvin Kamara, and as a extra to the deal, they were able to ink Demario Davis as to an extension as well. So Cam Jordan gets his deal. Perhaps somebody else is in line for another one as well. As the Saints signed Isaiah Foskey, New Orleans finally signed former Notre Dame defensive end Isaiah Foskey, their second round pick, according to the team. This is from Saints News Network. Shout out to Bob Rose on the dropping the scoop. Saints signed second round draft pick Isaiah Foskey to a deal in May. The Saints agreed to terms with their 6 other draft picks, including running back Kendre Miller in the 3rd, Nick Saldiveri in the 4th, defensive back Jordan Howden in the 5th, wide receiver A.T. Perry in the 6th, and they signed him in mid-May. Now, first round draft choice Brian Breesy, the defensive tackle, and 4th round pick QB Jake Hayner agreed to terms the following week. So we finally got all our guys under deals. Now, the Saints rookies report to training camp on July the 18th. That was the other day. Veterans report following the week on July the 25th, with the first official practice the next day on July the 26th. Foskey, a defensive end from Notre Dame, was the 9th pick of the second round and 40th overall. He was the first defensive lineman off the board in day 2 and the 4th defensive end chosen out of all of them during that span of time. Now, the Saints have selected a decent defensive end in the first or second round in the last 3 of the last 6 drafts. Foskey follows first rounders Davenport 2018, Peyton Turner 21, Trey Hendrickson was also selected in the 3rd round of the 2017 draft. Now, 22 first team All-American, Foskey had 28 tackles for a loss, a school record of 26 and a half sacks in 4 years with Notre Dame. His last 2 seasons with the Fighting Irish, he had 20.5 sacks, 23 tackles for a loss, and 47 fumbles. 6'5", 260 plus, is an agile defender with underrated power along the edge. He has a repertoire of pass rush moves comparable to a seasoned pro, holds up well at the point of attack, and also very effective against the run. He can break off with long arms. One of the best traits I've seen. We did film work on him. Isaiah Foskey, if he can't get to you, he uses those long arms to keep you, away from him so that he could then push off from you and pursue the ball carrier or try to get a hold to a quarterback. Like you see in this clip right here's the quarterback trying to get away from him. And you can see him with those long strides, long arms, he's going to eventually get to you. Saints defensive end Cam Jordan, franchise legend, still playing at a high level, but turns 34 in the offseason, enters his 13th season. Davenport departing for agency. Turner hasn't done nothing in the past 2 years. And Foskey is expected to infuse disruption, explosiveness opposite of Jordan. It will be an immediate factor in the rotation, hopefully. New Orleans had 48 sacks in 2022, 4th highest in the NFL, but ranked near the bottom of the league in hurries and pressures. Jordan contributed 8.5 sacks, but the Saints got 10 combined sacks from Davenport, Turner, Carl Granderson, and Passanio. That has to improve. That's where Isaiah Foskey and others are here. So congratulations to Isaiah Foskey and the Saints for making that happen, as there are no impediments for getting him into training camp. Moving on to the updated New Orleans Saints current salary cap situation, according to Sport Track. This is from the Saints Wire. Saints have, got all the guys signed, including Foskey. So what does it look like? How much cap space do the Saints have? Most accurate estimate comes from Over the Cap, whose analysts say that the Saints are under the cap by as much as 13.3 plus mil at the time of the writing. Another popular sports finance outlet, Sport Track, posts a more conservative 10.1 plus mil. The NFL Players Association often a few days behind media outlets reporting public salary cap data, but have New Orleans at 14.4 plus. OTC's numbers are usually the most reliable given their sources among player agents and front office around the league. So the 13.3 million they're using is likely closer to what the Saints are working with eternally. So contract extensions should be expected. This is the first time of the year when the Saints finalize long-term extensions with cornerstone players. In recent years, they hammered out deals with Laddie Daddy, Ramczyk, Demario Davis. Talk about that with Elvin Kamara. And we already know Cam is a priority for him. He's made it clear he's receptive to finish his career in black and gold. That should work out sooner rather than later. But who are some of the other players that can sign multi-year extensions with the Saints? Look at their list of pending free agents in 2024. Starters like guard Cesar Ruiz, defensive end Carl Granderson are both set to test for agency. And you also have unique cases like quarterback Jameis Winston, wide receiver Michael Thomas. In Winston's case, he's likely hoping for a warm reception in free agency in the spring, while Thomas hoping for a return to good health so he can reestablish himself as a premier talent. And then, of course, Saints still have some holes to plug on their roster. They could use some more defensive linemen with real pro experience, both at tackle and end. Yannick Ngakoue is the best rusher left on the market. And there are veteran interior linemen available like Matt Leonidas and Shelby Harris, but the proposed pay would envision a role where we'll need to agreeably be for the Saints to land in them. Don't look for Jadeveon Clowney to reunite with his old defensive coordinator Joe Woods after he publicly criticized the coach last season. Depth in the linebacker core is unproven. Demario has been a rock for the Saints, but Werner's durability issues have become a concern. You know, with the injury sidelined him for 5 games in 2022. There are high hopes for Zach Bowen and DeMarco Jackson, but they're both returning from season-ending injuries. Behind them is a mix of journeyman and undrafted rookie. Someone like Quan Alexander would build a lot of confidence in the group, but he wants to compete for a starting job, and that's unlikely to happen in New Orleans. You could make an argument for another investment along the offensive line, given the injury histories of our 5 projected starters. Pennon missed 11 games in 2022. Pete missed 6 games in 2022, 11 games in 21. McCoy missed 4 games in 2022, 5 games in 21. Cesar Ruiz missed 2 games in 2022. Ramczyk missed 1 game in 2022, 7 and 21. But still, Ramczyk didn't look like nothing. The fact that he missed 1 game, he still didn't look like the Ram I know. I don't know what's going on there, but what about the trade? There is some smoke linking the Saints to a trade with the Raiders for slot receiver Hunter Renfrow for 4 months now, even predating the landmark signing of Carr, who connected with Renfrow. As many touchdowns, receptions in 21 alone. He had 9 of them as Chris Olave, Thomas, and Rashid scored together in 2022. Olave, Thomas, and Sheed all missed time in the offseason program with injuries, dealing with different injuries. The Renfrow makes a lot of sense for what the Saints want to do offensively. Trading Renfrow now would save the Raiders almost $7 million. And the Raiders currently have the 3rd lowest cap space in league, according to OTC, with just under $3 million. So Renfrow would offer some much needed relief, and traded Renfrow will leave the Saints on the hook for base salaries of $6.5 million in 23 and 11+ million in 2024, but he can be reduced dramatically through a restructure or a new deal altogether. We've already talked about the options available at length. If the Saints and Raiders can agree on the trade compensation, New Orleans they have enough space to fit Renfrow on the books. Just need imagination. Ain't nothing too far for Derek Carr, man. So Saints have made that very interesting. Set realistic expectation. Would be nice for the Saints to make an exciting move to send things in the training camp with a little momentum, but that's just not likely. They've made ample time to acquire more players, fill out the depth chart. Odds are they'll continue to focus on getting a head start on extensions, pending 24 free agents like Jordan, signing a few street free agents to minimize deals for competition for the bottom of the roster. But you never know. Deadlines per action. If the Saints don't like what they see in a few training camp practices, they can shake things up. They've made moves to bring players like Bradley Roby late in offseason after being dissatisfied with the level of competition in camp. If there are too many drop passes or practices missed by receivers battling injury, we might finally get a resolution to 6 months of speculation on whether Renfrow will continue to catch passes for Carr. Anything and everything is up when you talk about adding Derek Carr. Anything is possible. Anything's possible with the Saints when you talk about Carr. Injuries could happen. The Saints could reach out to Hunter Renfrow because they understand that the Saints, they have to make the moves to improve upon the roster to keep things going in the upward direction. No, it will not be a very good year if the Saints don't get this team into the playoffs, despite all of the money and the resources they put toward building the team. A subpar season and a non-playoff season is not going to be acceptable. Again, it'll be 3 years of non-playoff thing. I'm not saying it, but this is the thing. This is why the Saints are moving like this. They understand